Minister Thomas, Minister Andrews, P.S. Perrott, Nurse Emmons, Nurse Iban, Dr. Dabrio, Dr. Francia, special invited guests, other members of the mental health team. Good morning, students, good morning. We are here this morning to deal with mental health in catastrophe and emergencies. Mental health is a serious thing. It is even more serious than some of us take it, and some of us brand it. In any time somebody has a mental breakdown, we brand them as crazy. And we sort of disband them out, and there's a madman or a madwoman, I want to have nothing to do with her. We must be mindful that it's a medical condition, and mental has to do with your cognitive state. And so the goal is to raise awareness of mental impact during disasters and emergencies and promote early support, which is critical to strengthen emotional resilience. So let's all, after today, we're going to do our part to ensure that we take all the action so that we can build everyone in society. At this point, to welcome you officially, I call on Minister Andrews to do so. So put your hands together for Mr. Andrews as he comes to welcome you.
Pleasant good morning to everyone. Let me start with our hardworking minister, the Minister for Mental Health, Wellness, and a whole heap of other things, youth, sports, etc. Hardworking Minister Delma Thomas, and of course, welcome, special welcome to Carriacou, to you. Anytime you come to Carriacou, you know, it's special. And to our Permanent Secretary, Linwell Perrott, who is the Permanent Secretary within the Ministry of Carriacou and Pediatric Affairs and Local Government, our mental health nurse, Nurse Emmons, members of the Royal Guerrilla Police Force, members of the business community, staff of the Ministry of Carriacou and Pediatric Affairs, staff of the Ministry of Health, and students, and most importantly, some of the staff from the Ministry of Mental Health and Wellness, Grenada. So to each and every one of you, thank you for being in Carriacou and welcome. And now the theme, as suggested, and Minister was just pointing out to me, that the global theme seems to, the people who probably come up with the theme probably thought about Carriacou and Petit Martinique when they were putting the theme together, because certainly it talks about catastrophe and emergencies. And certainly that is what we've recently faced with Hurricane Beryl. Now, it has been a very traumatic experience for the people of Carriacou and Petit Martinique. And sadly, a lot of us were impacted mentally, emotionally, etc., by the devastation caused by Hurricane Beryl. I know this is a welcome, but I also want to put on record how pleased I am as Member of Parliament and Minister of the mental health team in Carriacou. And I think we should put our hands together and recognize Nurse Emmons and Ms. Eben, who have been doing yeoman service mental health here in Carriacou and Petit Martinique. With the limited resources, manpower, they have been doing a tremendous job. And I believe that the ministers present and the team from mainland present here today is a clear indication that Carriacou and Petit Martinique will certainly be given some much needed attention as it relates to mental health, and not just attention by presence, but attention probably by putting money where our mouth is, and among other things. I have absolutely no doubt about it, and I have all confidence in my dear Kakabawi friend and my dear hardworking colleague, Minister Thomas. So thank you very much, and welcome.
Thank you very much, Minister Andrews. To bring you some opening remarks, we call on P.S. Perrott. So put your hands together for P.S. Perrott as he comes to bring some opening remarks.
So good morning again, everybody. Honorable Delma Thomas, Honorable Tevin Andrews, Nurse Emmons, the business community, staff of the Ministry of Carriacou and Petit-Martinique Affairs and Local Government, staff from the Ministry of Mental Health in Grenada, students, the media. Good morning. First of all, based on what we went through here in Carriacou, and I say we, I was not physically here, but the support and the work that we had to do for mainland, we, having gone through Ivan before, knew exactly what the people in Carriacou and Petit-Martinique were facing at the time. And there are a lot of things that takes place after a disaster. Some people are able to cope with it, others are not able to cope with it, and so it leads you into a state of depression, and eventually your mental health is affected. As professionals, we have to find ways of dealing with mental health, and please note that mental health is not for one set of people. It affects anyone or everyone. Sometimes you see your minister on the road jogging or walking. Sometimes we do hiking. And it's all part of mental health, strengthening your mental health. Because stress can do a number of things on you, and you don't even realize. So physical exercise is very important. Eating well, socializing well is also very important. I'm not an expert here, Dr. Chaitan, but I know a few things. Because when I feel stressed, one of the things I do is that I exercise, and it helps me a lot. Okay, so there's a lot going on. A lot of you are recovering, rebuilding your homes, and families and so. And I know it's a lot, but you have to find some means of helping you to control that mental aspect of yourself. Just recently, I was looking at BBC News, and there is this famous boxer, English boxer, who has been diagnosed with some mental disorders. Wealthy guy, has everything it takes, but he was diagnosed with mental disorder. So he doesn't choose who, but it's how you live your life, the kind of food you eat, as I mentioned before, the exercising, how you handle stress. That is very important. So this morning, I know we have a packed day. I want you, especially our students, because we have been seeing some antisocial behaviors. And I, knowing what is happening, and there are many others who might know what is happening, realize that all of that can come from the trauma of a disaster and people not being able to deal with it, especially our youths or young ones. So the team from Grenada is here today, and I know they're going to give you some pointers, and they're going to show you and tell you of ways to deal with some of the trauma and the stress that the people in Carriacou are experiencing, that you are experiencing. And as a ministry, we stand firm in supporting our mental health partners, in doing whatever we can to support and to aid in the development of everyone on island. So with this, I would just like you to take in as much as you can today. Try and put some of the things into practice. We are constantly having, Dr. Chaitan was here just recently in the schools with a partnership with Carriacou and Mental Health Ministry. Visiting the schools, visiting the communities, speaking to people on the blocks, and letting them know how to deal with some of the things that they're experiencing. We're going to continue that. We have plans to continue. And especially for my staff members, because as a PS, I'm very concerned about my staff We're going to do some one-on-one session with our staff as well to make sure everybody is up and running and everybody is in a right frame of mind to continue doing the nation's work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pierre Spirit. And as you say that mental health don't choose the rich or the poor, male or female, but what will be critical for us as all is the support that we provide for these persons who has those mental conditions. So support is critical, and let us do our part to help. At this point, we should have an icebreaker. Okay. So we would not take everybody, but we'll start with the students, of course. Yeah. I want one of, we have Hillsborough, we have Bishop's College. So I'll take 2 from Hillsborough Secondary, 2 from Bishop's College. I want you to tell me one word that's associated with crisis. And there ain't no right and wrong answer, so say the word. Shortage. Interesting word. Hillsborough Secondary. Very good word. I didn't think that line, but yeah, very good word. Anybody else from Hillsborough Secondary? Ishani, tell me. Bishop's College? Leah, that's not fair. Anyone? Distress? And from the audience? Drama or trauma? What question is that? What? All right, yeah. Trauma, also drama. This side? Another from this side, any word that associated with crisis? Uncertainty. That is true. And all of you, should tell there is no right and wrong answer, because everything is true. And there's a lot you can think about. Some of us just don't want to speak, but I know there's a lot we can think about when we talk about crisis. We have some tokens to give away. So I think I'll give away one now. And you have to raise your hand to answer and a short answer for me. So we're in the classroom now. All right, so you raise your hand to answer. What is the theme for mental health this year? Mental health. Yes? Access to services? M? No, yeah, that's in it. Very good. Right, so as we go along, we'll ask another question. All right, you just have to be observant, and it's right there, it's right in your face. All right, so we'll ask question again as we go along. So Dr. Hazel Dabrio is a registered psychotherapist and assistant professor of psychology at the St. George's University. She serves as president of the SGU Faculty Senate and is a member of the Graduate Review Committee. Her work bridged depth psychology, trauma, and liberation theory with a focus on gender-based violence. Her recent book, Psychosis, Spirit Possession, and Child Sexual Abuse, and upcoming title, The Third Temptation, explore the intersections of trauma, resistance, and culture. She's also developing a film, Yara, and a short story collection, Tales from the Congo. Dr. Dabrio is a co-founder and director of the Sweetwater Foundation, supporting survivors of sexual violence across the Caribbean and the diaspora. Ladies and gentlemen, our first guest speaker she's going to speak a behavioral therapist, and she's going to speak on how disaster affects our mind. And I want us to pay attention and let us understand, because we just came from a disaster, and this should be very helpful. So put your hands together for Dr. Dabrio as she comes to.
I'll just go between. Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to be here in Carriacou with you. P.S. Parrott, Minister Andrew, Minister Thomas, Nurse Emons, thank you so much for inviting me to join you. I think the first thing I want to say is to remind us that it's not people with mental health issues over there and us, the good ones, over here. If we have blood, skin, and bones, we all have suffered mental health problems in our lifetime. If there's anyone here who has not suffered from grief of some kind, the loss of a loved one, all of us have relatives who age and pass on. If there's any one of us who has not experienced longing for something that was here and now is gone, if there's any of us who has not failed at a job or failed at an exam or just been human and lived on this planet, just to say that mental health is a part of the human condition, and it doesn't suddenly fall on some people from out of the sky. It is ever present, and a part of our journey is to learn how to manage the stresses, the anxieties, and the fears that we all feel at some point in our life. So just to illustrate that further, I'm going to pick from a neuroscientific point of view to explain what happens in a body when it gets scared, right? So the first thing to draw attention to is that there is a part of the brain, our colleague was right when he said it's about the brain. There's a part of the brain called the amygdala, which is located just at the base of your spine, at the top of your spine. And what happens is when we feel scared, immediately that part of the brain activates, touches into our sympathetic nervous system, and makes these things happen. Our hearts beat faster, our pulse rate increases, we sweat, we start thinking about how to get out of here. And if we determine that we cannot get out of here, we start thinking for how we're going to fight somebody. Who is it that's threatening us? What is it that's threatening us? We start looking for a way to fight it. And if we find there's not a way to fight it, we freeze up. You all with me so far? Let me give you an example of little Johnny. Little Johnny has a dad who drinks on Friday night and comes home and beats everybody. They all know that. So you're playing inside and you hear the car pull up on the gravel. You hear gravel crunching under car tires outside. And the children look at each other and they know what happened. You know, Daddy come home drunk, he's gonna beat somebody, guaranteed. This already activates that trauma response. So those kids sitting there playing, now they're suddenly in a sweat. Hands are shaking, the eyes darting around to see where trouble is coming from. And in fact, as predicted, Dad comes through the door and he's looking for somebody to beat. How do these things happen? What kind of behavior is that? But the behavior of interest here is the children who will try to run away. They'll go somewhere else. Trouble is coming. Can't get away because Dad say, where you think you're going? Come back here. You come back here, and then you get your licks, but you can't take it anymore, so you want to fight. Dad says, oh, well, who you think you are now, a big man? The beating gets worse. So finally, you just freeze down, sit down, small up yourself, and you take it. That is a typical trauma response. So say what it is that we have a hurricane or some other kind of disaster. This has happened already before you know it. Sometimes you have a client in a class with you and in clinic with you, and you find that the student is not responding. You're saying all the right things. How do you feel about that? Well, let's talk about the situation. Let's resolve the problems. And the child is just looking at you like this. And you want to say, you rude or what? You don't hear me talking to you? You have to understand that if a traumatic incident has happened, man, woman, or child, the brain has already released hormones and chemicals into your body that prevent you from paying attention. You cannot pay attention. You remember, well, you've seen movies where medical urgencies get admitted into the hospital and maybe there's mass chaos. The first thing the doctors will say is stabilize the patient, right? For the doctors in the room, stabilize the patient before we can begin to do anything. Because until you stabilize the person who is experiencing a trauma, they can't hear you, they can't concentrate. They might seem to be sitting there saying, yes, miss, no, sir, yes, miss, but trust me, they're not taking in a word that you say. So talk psychotherapy at a time like that is not possible. Don't fool yourself. And this is what happens to any and everybody with a brain, not only some people over there. Then there's the limbic system, which is where our feelings sit, and then we begin to touch into feelings after the initial trauma response. And we begin to connect with, I'm scared, I'm worried, where's mom? And the feelings now enter that surge like tsunami coming, and you soon become maybe engulfed, overwhelmed, washed away by feelings that you have. Even in the law, we understand, what do we call it? Crimes of passion. It's a defense that is viable under the law, where some trauma happens and the person involved gets so washed away by their emotion that they don't know what they're doing anymore. We understand these things and that they can happen to anybody, not just some of us. Finally, in the prefrontal cortex, there is cognition. That happens after the first two impulses. And with cognition, you begin to say, okay, wait, let me breathe. I have insurance. Those children are going to come home from school. I can leave the situation. I'm going to rebuild. Whatever it is, you begin to tell yourself, and then you begin to sort through. And once everybody has reached that point, everybody at a different stage, we will finally begin to be able to sit, sort through, make plans, and decide what is best and what we should leave behind. But I want you to understand that the trauma response takes control of your body and your feelings and your thoughts for the initial hit. Then, when you calm down, when you stabilize the patient, stabilize the island, then we can begin the disciplined, brain-driven work. So that is just to begin with where trauma is centered in the whole neurological system of the human being. And there is no point in saying, I wish those people would behave so. I wish these people would not behave like that. How do we control the behavior of people? That's the wrong question to ask. So I want to try to point us in a direction that might be helpful. And even as I stand here talking to you about disaster management, I am very, very sure that you all know much more about it than I do, and I should be the one listening to you. I hope there's an opportunity for me to listen to you. And I don't have very long to speak, so I will try to touch on a few things, and if I leave anything out, I urge you to ask me questions. And if the time here today doesn't suffice, contact me by phone, WhatsApp, email. I'm happy to talk to anybody about issues of mental health, right? So how do I do this? Any suggestions as to how I move between? You'll give me some grace as I move in between, right? But basically, this slide is just to say that. Yeah, thank you. I like to give a global perspective when I'm talking to Caribbean people, because, you know, they've called us third world, they've called us a global south, they've called us everything. And I always use this opportunity to give a little boost right now and say, we're not different from other people in the world. There is climate change happening globally. It's affecting everybody, not just us. So I'm trying to bring a global perspective. I want to talk about both long-term strategies and about some quick tips for what might happen when there is an immediate crisis. Sir? That was it, or did we miss one? Something missing? Okay. Come forward. All right, so I think a slide did not translate there, but here I want to say that we are speaking of huge environmental crises, and one thing that's new in the world for sure is that we have many more extreme weather conditions than we used to have in the past. But it is not only the extreme conditions that put us as human beings at risk. It is also the little things that creep upon us. For example, smoke, dust, pollen in the air that gives us allergies, plant disease, infestations, rats, cockroaches, whatever comes out of the forest, water scarcity and disease, living in urban slums, loss of a sense of place. All of these things contribute to a sort of a creeping sense that things aren't well in the world, right? We don't have to wait for there to be a huge crash. The world is changing incrementally. If you speak to farmers and people who are fishing, they will tell you of the changes that the climate has impacted in their gardens, on their farms, and in the seas, with the amount and the quality of the fish that we eat. So by the time somebody may come and sit with you, as we say, working with staff, working with groups of children, a group at a time or one by one, you might expect to hear a big story about something massive that happened. But the mental health of populations is more so affected, or maybe equally so affected, by the little things that have been happening in your life for years without you taking note. A little change here, a little change there. Can you all think of any examples? Small incremental things that add up to one day you just feel sick. One day you say, I feel like I can't go on. And people who know you well might say to you, but what happened? And you might not be able to say what happened. But gradually, you've begun to feel so sick. And I will show you some new diagnoses that psychologists have developed to explain this sort of sickness that is taking over people because of climate change that doesn't seem to have an exact pointed cause. It just comes upon us. We wake up feeling uneasy, not sure about what. Where are the children? They okay. What's going on? You don't know, but you begin to feel badly about things in general in the world. what? I'm getting every other one? Well, it seems I'm getting every other slide. Maybe that will serve to hurry me on. I'm showing this slide because one of the problems of climate change is forced migration. That's a movement of people around the planet. And those who count these things, the World Health Organization, the United Nations, and so on, published that in 2020, guess how many children around the world were on the move, moving from one country to the other with their little bundle. If they're lucky, they're holding on to a mummy's hand. They just walk in from Russia to Ukraine, from Venezuela to Guyana, from Haiti to Montserrat. Guess how many children, call a number, in the world? In 2020, 33 million children. And I give you this number to say, look, it's not only us. And we need to get together and figure out how to protect each other because we now know all the stuff that happens. So that number went up to the last count in 1923. In 1923, 47 million children displaced in the world, walking from one part of the world to the other with their little Georgie bundle, looking for help and safety and some food. Right? How are we doing in Carriacou by comparison? Maybe not so bad after all. But what happened in the case of Haiti, as you all may know, Haiti gets hit like left, right, and center. Not Haiti again, you all will say. Earthquakes, hurricanes, floods, war, civil unrest. And every time that there is a disaster, people lose their homes. And when you face homelessness, one of the things you have to do is look to move, right? So that's Haiti. People looking to move all the time, going over to the Dominican Republic, across to Florida, wherever they can. And in this case study here, that also happened to Montserrat not too long ago. In Montserrat, Soufriere blew up, buried half the island, and of course people had to run for their life. And after they ran for their life, a lot left the island and went to live somewhere else. So in the reconstruction phase, the government started welcoming new immigrants, putting things in place to say, come and live in Montserrat, we need people for the workforce, we need this, so welcome. And a lot of the people who came to Montserrat on that government initiative to increase the population size because of displacement due to natural disaster were specifically itemized in some UN document from Guyana and Haiti were sex workers. And the reason they came saying this is the job we came to do is because in Montserrat prostitution is legal. So everybody knew that there were lots of sex workers coming in. What was the impact on the community? Sorry to say these things in front of our children here. One of the impacts that the government never anticipated was sex work extended to child prostitution and child trafficking overseas. It was a direct consequence of climate change. Is that something that we consider when we think about climate change disaster and behavioral adaptation? This is not something that we would normally consider, but it happened so startlingly in Montserrat that they began to change the law. All of a sudden in Montserrat's law books, under child protection, there were many, many, many more laws than there used to be of penalties for what they call it selling children and having to write it in law. In 2025, that you're not allowed to sell children. You say to yourself, what really going on? But this was a consequence of climate change disaster that nobody could have foreseen. And of course, on the back of that, as I said, human trafficking. So they had to supervise the ports a lot more vigorously than they had before, because now this was a new reality. You need me, Minister? Me? Oh, thank you so much. Okay, next one. Lord, there's a bottle under my chair. See it? Strong man, Minister. I don't know what happened. Okay, switch. So, the fact that we do not know what is actually going to happen, these strange, maybe not so strange, but unpredictable things that have started happening in our cultures, in our communities, as a direct consequence of climate change disaster, we kind of don't know how to get a grip and put plans in place. Every time there's a new emergency, we adjust, we adapt, we put things in place for that. And then another thing comes on us again. And we realize there were some gaps that we now need to fill again. So we're on that treadmill and we're running fast, but it's like the waves in the sea. You remember as children playing? You go to where the wave's breaking and here comes a wave and you laugh and play and you dive under and you come out, you laugh, you won. And then another one comes and you dive. But at a certain stage that they come in and you have to run out of the water and call for your mother. Who is the mother in cases of climate change disaster? It's a state. And I think that our Grenadian government it's just amazing how quickly to me they respond and how well they do. But one little state can't do everything. We have to rely on our NGO community. NGO community can't do everything. We have to rely on each other. And it's to remember that the helpers that come to you, the police officers, the nurses, the social workers, this is a behaviorist position that says you must assess what behavior patterns are emerging amongst all of us. Because the social worker lost her house too. The police officer doesn't know where this fell and where his roof went to. You think they're not feeling stress? Remember the brain and the trauma response? So everybody is affected, but maybe to greater or lesser extent. So what makes the difference between people who say there's one village and the whole village faces a disaster? But some people in the village, everybody lost their house, but some people in the village get up and say, okay, I have insurance, I'm going to call my uncle overseas for a barrel, I'm going to do this and do that, and they seem to be okay, they're going to survive. Other people over here breaking apart, falling down, bawling out, calling out. What makes the difference between the one and the other? Anybody? Give me an idea. What you think? Mikey, put up your hand. Anybody have an idea? Behavioral science reminds you that there are 3 levels to check before you can call anybody, crazy. The first is with the individual. The individual has first to say, I don't feel well, I think I need some help. Something is wrong here. Second level is the society, because that individual might be going about their various behaviors feeling fine with it. Nothing wrong with me, but the culture is saying, no man, something wrong, you better get some help, or else don't come around here. And the third level is the mental health professional, who has to sit down with her charts and her psychometric instruments and do a lot of tests on you to find out whether you qualify for a diagnosis of whatever the case may be. And those three levels altogether might qualify you for a diagnosis of a mental health disorder or a psychiatric disorder. And with that qualified expert diagnosis, you're then eligible to get treatment, psychotherapy, medication, hospitalization. All these things make a big difference, right? And it's why they're supported by law as well as by the medical profession. But what if you're a whole community? He tried to stick it on me, it's not sticking. What if you're an entire population of 6,000 people all breaking down at one time? What do you think we do? What should we do? Anybody? Can one of the students tell me what you think we should do? When everybody has gone mad one time? Huh? I just want to introduce you to the professionals in the room to some of the terms that I think are new in the world, newish in the world, because we're having so many climate crises, one after the other, like the waves on the beach. We have what's newly called a psychothoracic state, referring to a mental health condition that's coming out of the earth. Not literally coming out of the earth like water or soil, but in this scenario, it says the need for new psychological categories is emerging. They refer to eco-emotions and eco-anxiety, ecological grief, climate worry, and climate trauma. Have you all heard of these diagnoses before? And in terms of removing the stigma, if somebody here goes to see a specialist to say, I don't feel good, and the specialist evaluates you and says, what you have is eco-worry, and you go home and you tell your family, I'm suffering from eco-worry, what might they do? Fall down and laugh, right? So what do we do to remove stigma about these mental health conditions that are so real for so many people of the world, that the psychologists are sitting at the table and coming up with new names and phrases to describe? We have neuropsychiatric illnesses, and solastalgia is one of the ones that really kind of hit home for me, because we know the term nostalgia, right? Nostalgia means when you're away from your home and you miss it. You want your family, you want your dog, you want your view, you want your bed. You start feeling nostalgic, you might shed a tear. Solastalgia is that same sense, but you're in your home. You didn't lose your home. You're sitting on your bed with your pets. But you get that feeling anyway of missing home while you're still living in it. Isn't that extraordinary? And what do you think accounts for that? You're scared that the next wave is going to take that home, so you start to miss it in advance. You might say that's a weird thing, but that is something that psychologists have taken note of and factored into treatment plans for clients who come in with that sort of sickness in them that just means they miss their home so terribly. They haven't lost it yet, but they think they might, and what to do about it. Somebody spoke to me? No? Okay. So here's the thing that's hard to take, that human activities are the primary drivers of significant environmental changes. So you see all this disaster that I'm giving you a picture of that's happening all over the world. Europe alone last year had 378 natural disasters in Europe alone in 1 year alone. And all of these problems are being caused by human beings and our failure to take care of the earth. Everything is caused by man and woman. And what's particularly hard to take in my view is that the people who do the least harm to the environment are the people who stand the biggest brunt of the fallout that occurs. You all understand? That ought to make people really vexed and upset. And there's a new psychological term for that. What is it? Eco something or other. And I want to move to, I know my time is long gone, so I'll try to wrap up a little. One of the things that disturbs me most is that the United Nations has published that small island developing states who are most at risk of climate change disaster are also seeing an increase in the rate of homicides as a direct result of climate change disaster. Help me understand this one. I know I'm the psychologist, but I'm going like, what? How do we get to people killing each other? What is homicide? That's murder, right? Who's starting to murder who because of a hurricane? So one example that I discovered when I was working in Montserrat is, so hear this. Soufriere explodes, volcano erupts, people run everywhere, get displaced. And one brother and his family who were living too close to the volcano lost their house, lost everything, and you know, they do a cognitive appraisal. What's the harm? What's the harm going to cost? Do I have resources to recover? Or do I have a big problem on my hands? They had a big problem on their hands because no way that they turned it could they ever see themselves recovering what they lost. So they had to run up north and ask for shelter with their sister and her family, who was living in the family house. That's the mother and father's house that all the children had grown up in. Now it was only the sister and her children that were living there. So, of course, it's a crisis, everybody gets shelter. But then the brother and his children start saying, well, I guess we could get our share in mommy's house then. You see where I'm going with that? Have we thought about these things? The sister said, what do you mean share in mommy's house? This house passed down to me. Your house is under the volcano. Yes, but know that my house is under the volcano. I would like to get peace in my mother's house, please. Sister said, well, no, I'm sorry about your problem, but blah, 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 blah. And somebody killed somebody. Somebody murdered somebody by chopping them to pieces. And the volcano happened how long ago? 7 years. Yet, that was a homicide that was directly related to climate change disaster. You'll see, there are many things and behaviors of people that we are just beginning to take into account. And for us professionals to run fast, to figure out how to not just cope with them when they happen, but what preventions to put in place to prevent these things from happening. In the case of the brother and sister with the house. Minister Thomas, what do you say? What should we do? Who knows what to do? Switch. Go. More. Go. Go. So as a behaviorist approach to supportive mechanisms, number one, understanding the barriers. Behavioral science helps identify what is blocking people from adapting to climate change, such as uncertainty about future impacts. So for us professionals out in the field, you might hear things that people are expressing that you never expected to hear coming out of the mouth of people. But that is how we are beginning to identify. Under stress, what is it that people do? Because nobody behaves like themselves. All of us know how to behave on a good day. Our parents raised us up, yes they did, and taught us manners and care for others and building community. We all know that. When we get in trouble and we don't behave like ourselves. So the behaviorist's job as a social worker, as a psychotherapist, is to ask, what are you going through, my love? What are you going through, sweetheart? What do you need? How do you feel? How may we help you? And what are the barriers to that help getting to you? We have always to be asking. Empowerment and resilience, we have to continue to make people feel empowered. As I said before, stabilize the patient. So you hush down everybody. Don't worry, we have it. Even if you're thinking, oh God, what to do? One of the most soothing political moves I've ever seen was the mayor or somebody of New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina wiped them out. I don't know if any of you all were looking at the news, but there he went in his car with a loudspeaker, assuring his population, I have you. We have some hard days ahead of us, but trust me, my government is on it. We're going to look after you. Don't worry. And he's saying that, and I'm reading his mind and going, you better say that, because if not, looting, burning down. And what's the most inexplicable thing that happens in the wake of a disaster? Tell me. What we know is happening for sure when there's a disaster and no law is around. Huh? I saw this in Dominica when I went to do work in Dominica after, I forget which hurricane it was. And we drove by and all the shelters were full. People had gone to the shelters provided by the state. And they sheltered there and they got shelter and they got food. And that was working beautifully. Except I, in my position as a child protection specialist, as we drive by, I'm going, oh, look, the children, like they don't even care. They're playing. Wait, no, who's supervising the children? Wait, stop the car. Not an adult in sight. And when you ask about it, well, the adults rebuilding the houses where you expect them to be. Fine. Who's looking after the children? Because night will soon fall. And you know who's looking for the children? And that whole system that was working so beautifully well had left out that gap. What happens to the children? So, we can never relax on the protective mechanisms that we put in place to check people's behavior. Because we would like to believe that everybody is Jesus when there's a crisis and everybody's going to run to help their neighbor. I wish, and I'm sure that most are, but others come in and rob you and take your children. Right? That's human behavior, and we have to know it and accept it so we can put the measures in place. Can you switch? Switch. So this here begins to get very technical, and I know I was asked to speak about behavior management today, but it happens that this part of my lecture will take long because it's very technical, and I'm making a decision to leave it here, or else I'll be here for the rest of the day, literally. Minister, you'll have to ask me again for part 2, okay? So, any questions? Any comments? Okay, so my friend, this is the end of my presentation for today.
Sorry, can I go ahead?
Mikey, how long was I? How long was I?
Thank you very much, Dr. Dabrio. I'll give a big round of applause, some vital information that is beneficial to us, and it's critical how we support what we do, how we do as adults to protect our children. We now have a skit by the Division of Culture and Youth, or Youth and Sports, I suppose, in the eye of the storm. So put your hands together for this as they come to do the skit.
You doing protocol? Good morning to everyone. Our skit is entitled In the Eye of the Storm. Scene one. Scene one. The setting, the workplace is a break room. Casual conversation between Jenna, Mike, Leah, and Christine.
Hey, are you seeing the news? They say a storm is heading straight for us, and it could shut down everything. Can you imagine? No current, no AC, no Facebook.
Oh, Lord. I just moved here. I'm not even ready for this. I don't even have no emergency supplies.
All right. Stop panicking now. I know guys that Carriacou storm coming here. Now them exaggerating them for that, or giving people false information. No, they're coming here, we're good. Yeah.
Right. Even though they're exaggerating it, it's good to prepare. And to prepare mentally too. Storms like this could really affect people.
I was just so.
Okay, I'll tell you.
Flash forward a few days, the storm has passed. Damage everywhere. The team is back at work.
I know, the whole street flood, everything damaged, the roof gone, water everywhere.
As for me, I had a panic attack. I kept thinking about my family way back home and what is happening to them.
People stop panicking now, this thing gonna already take a woman. Why you see what it passes, let it move now. Oh, Mom, I want to do work, we're gonna do work, let the work done now.
Mike, it's okay to be shaken. You went through a very low. That was traumatic.
Yeah, but move on, you can't dwell in this thing forever.
No, I think we need to talk to someone. We need help.
We crazy people are going to have to be playing
A meeting room. casual check-in with a mental health professional.
I spoke to HR and they're arranging for us to talk to a psychologist or a counselor. We need help. We need to talk to someone.
I hope so too. Because I really didn't realize how bad I was coping until that breakdown this morning.
Guys, I'm so glad we're talking about this because it makes me feel so less alone.
See, I understand nothing about these days. Anytime I little rain blow, hard. I can't sleep. Anytime I little I can't sleep. I'm not playing man, but this thing frightening by this thing and so bad.
1 week later, a positive tone.
Guys, I've started journaling again. It's really helping me process things, you know.
Well, I tried one of the grounding techniques that we learned, and it's actually working for me. Trust me.
Mental recovery takes time. But at least now we know it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
In the crisis,
Mental health matters too. Let's not just survive. Let's heal together. Thank you.
Give them a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. They did well. And Lefty say something there every time a rain blow and wind fall. But seriously, after Beryl, I mean, remember, I think it was Chris, was immediately after. And a little shake take place. What? I won't tell you how I felt, but seriously. Yeah, them time I know I used to dead, so I ain't taking chance. You know what I mean? Ladies and gentlemen, next on the program is something very good to me. I mean, those who have the program there, we know what's next, supposed to be. What is supposed to be? And those who know me know what I'm talking about. I mean, but I am not seeing the organizer. I know if the lunch is here. I mean, with your permission, maybe we can just move on until the lunch reach, and then we can just break for that. Do I have your permission? Great. Dr. Francia is a Cuban-trained physician with over 25 years of medical experience, including more than a decade specialization in psychiatry. She holds a master's degree in science in comprehensive child care and is a certified specialist in both general psychiatry and child and adolescent psychiatry. Her career spans clinical and academic roles across Cuba, the Gambia, and Grenada. She is currently based at the Mongay Psychiatric Hospital, where she continues to serve both clinical and in leadership capacities. Dr. Francia is actively engaged in medical education research and international mental health forums with particular focus on child and adolescents' mental health. Ladies and gentlemen, our another speaker, speaking on trauma and post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and seeking help. Put your hands together for Dr. Francia. Comes to.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I was thinking because I was ready to do my presentation after lunch. And that's surprising. Okay, I am Dr. Francia. Everybody know me as a psychiatrist in Mongay Hospital. It's a pleasure to be here. Minister of Mental Health, Honorable Delma Thomas, Minister San Andreas, and the PS from Carriacou. It's a pleasure to be here today to do that presentation that I believe that at the end of that, everybody will be more preparing or more acknowledging about what is going on after one trauma or one disaster that in our life, everybody's in risk to experience that. Related with post-traumatic stress disorder and trauma. I need to put this one. Yes, the object, I don't know where. The objective of that presentation is to define the concept of what is trauma, what is post-traumatic stress disorder, to describe risk factors that we could find when we are exposed to one trauma. We will speak briefly about neurological risk factors that they are associated with one post-traumatic stress disorder. We will identify signs and symptoms when somebody has that kind of disorder, and we will emphasize how important it is to receive the early attention when we are in risk or when we are involved in one trauma situation. Look at this. We need to know when we are talking about post-traumatic stress disorder, what is trauma? Trauma is something that could affect everybody, everywhere in the worldwide. But there are some specific trauma that they are more associated with post-traumatic stress disorder. We are talking about serious trauma. What means serious trauma? One hurricane, one earthquake, one accident, when one plane crash, something like that. They are more associated with post-traumatic stress disorder than other kind of disorder. Grenada was affecting last year with one really serious trauma. We are talking about the Hurricane Beryl. But during the many years, there are other persons that have been affected with serious trauma. We are talking about people that have been involved, for example, in sexual abuse or domestic abuse, or people that have been affected because they are removing from the place where they are living. And that group of other trauma, we are talking that they are like a small trauma that may be, when you are facing one serious trauma, you have more risk to develop one post-traumatic stress disorder because your body was in risk previously and now are involved in one serious situation. That's why when we talk about what is post-traumatic stress disorder, in 1988, the American Psychiatric Association decided to include post-traumatic stress disorder in the DSM-3. Now we are using DSM-5 review that was done in 2022. But since 2013, that terminology was included also in the DSM-5. But in 2018 was the first time the Diagnosis Statistical Manual Mental Disorder included post-traumatic stress disorder into the new classification related with mental disorder. Related with the statistical and epidemiological information related with post-traumatic stress disorder, we could see, for example, that 70% of adults experience at least one traumatic event in their life, but only 20% will develop signs and symptoms related with the problem. That means that maybe you could be exposed in one trauma, but at the end of the day, you will not experience one post-traumatic stress disorder because everybody has different mechanisms to coping with that stressful situation. And related with that disorder, in that disorder, we need to be sure that the female are more affected than the male when we are coping that kind of trauma. There are one group of risk factors that make us more sensitive or more vulnerable to be affected with that kind of disorder. For example, when we are directly exposed to the trauma, when we are there, we are part of the trauma, we are more risk to develop one post-traumatic stress disorder. When we have lack of social support, when we are living in one community where maybe we have poor access to the medical attention or other essential service that as a human being we need. When, for example, we are living in one society where we have low socioeconomic status, or when as a childhood we are experiencing, for example, different trauma that I was mentioned before, for example, sexual abuse, physical abuse, or different trauma, previously we have more higher risk to develop one post-traumatic stress disorder. There are some biological factors also that after we'll talk about that will make us more sensitive to get one post-traumatic stress disorder. Family history of mental illness is one condition that we need to take in place when we are talking about that disorder. And sometimes we don't think about that. We believe because my auntie, my mom, or my grandmother have mental illness, I will not get anything of that. And that is not true. You are in risk, you have higher risk for suffering different kind of mental disorder also. At a young age, related with that disorder, young people, they have more risk to develop post-traumatic stress disorder than the elderly one. And the lower level of education. The lower level education is one risk factor in this case. Why? Because sometimes people that they have poor access to get instruction or education, they are not preparing for that kind of situation, and sometimes they could suffer that disorder. And other risk factor is the drugs abuse. Drugs abuse is something that is over the place. Everybody like to drink, smoke, or using different kind of drugs, but they are more vulnerable to get different kind of mental disorder, and that is one of them. Related with the biological factor, the doctor was talking about that when we are involved in one stress in our brain, occur one group of mechanisms that make us feel in one stressful situation, and that will facilitate us to run. But internally, there are another group of mechanisms that we are not aware that happened and preparing us to run or maybe to stay in the place. There are people that in front of one stress, they get like a paralyzed. I can't run, I can't do anything. Or maybe I run and that will facilitate me to escape from the scenario where I am. There I was trying to explain, for example, that appear one dysfunctional level of catecholamine. The brain could get some inflammation. There are some problems also in the metabolism on the brain, especially with the level of glucose and the mechanisms of dysregulation mechanism, the insulin. Other problem that we are suffering in our brain is, for example, that the numbers of neurons that there are on the brain could be diminished, and that could affect us how we could respond in front of that stress. And other situation is that there are some substances in our brain like a serotonin, norepinephrine, and dopamine, that the level of that hormone get low, and that could cause also that our response in front of one stress is not the proper one. What would be the clinical presentation when we are talking about post-traumatic stress disorder? Intrusive memory. That means that after you experience that trauma, some time after, you will start to memorize everything that you was living before. In your mind, you have like a picture or maybe imagine related with the trauma that you experienced. But when we talk about post-traumatic stress disorder, we must clarify something related with the time. Always I say that the time in psychiatry is really important when we are talking about the disorder. You are exposed to the trauma today, and tomorrow, maybe you have symptoms related, you are memorizing the scenario where you was involved. But at that time, you can receive the diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder. We are talking at that time about one acute stress disorder. 1 month after the incident, we are talking about post-traumatic stress disorder. You have the accident today, tomorrow, if you go to ask for help, your diagnosis is not post-traumatic stress disorder. Your diagnosis is acute stress disorder. 1 month after, your diagnosis is post-traumatic stress disorder. Sometimes the doctor may confusion on that because you tell them that you are memorizing and you have flashback about the situation, and because that is one of the main symptoms that you could see when we talk about post-traumatic stress disorder. That's why there are some doctors that could make like a misdiagnosis in that time. Intrusive memory related with the incident. Avoidance. In that aspect, most of the time, the persons who are involved in that kind of situation, they try to avoid to speak about what they are experiencing in the past. They try to visit places that could memorize then the situation. They try to see person that maybe was involved in the same accident when they were involved. And that kind of avoidance causes that the person after experience one social withdrawal behavior. They don't want to be around no one that could recall or maybe bring into that kind of memory. And the person has feeling of disattached from the family and friend. They want to be isolated. They don't want to around anyone that could bring in that kind of memory. Other thing that we could find, for example, is negative change in thinking and mood. The person, everything is black and white. There is not color in their thinking. And the mood is like a negative. All the time, they believe that nothing will improve, lack of energy, lack of motivation, and they don't want to associate with the rest of the people around that. We will find also one reduction on the expression emotion. They are not able to express that they are unhappy or they are feeling disappointed or they are feeling maybe hopelessness. They don't want to express any emotion. And you could see that person on that diagnosis that they are like, the mood is flat. They are not able to express themselves about what is going on. Other thing is that a memory problem, including non-remember important aspect related with the trauma. In that area, I would like to specify something. When we talk about post-traumatic stress disorder, even acute stress disorder, sometimes you are seeing in movies people that after the incident, they can't recall anything. It's because they are experiencing amnesia. That is one dissociative disorder type amnesia. They forget everything. And maybe they could recover the memory 1 month, 2 months, depend how was the nervous system previous to the accident. There are other things on there that sometimes there are persons that they experience that, but nobody know about that. We are talking about despersonalization and desrealization, and that causes confusion to express by the patient and understand for some doctors. For example, when we are talking about despersonalization, there are persons that they believe that their body has changed, that feeling changing, that something is strange in their appearance, but they are not able to understand what is going on. And when we are talking about despersonalization, it's something that I believe that area is not my place. I don't belong to that place. That place is changing. I don't feel comfortable in that area. That's two symptoms. I classify that two symptoms like a serious, because when there are any patients that they are suffering post-traumatic stress disorder with despersonalization and desrealization, maybe they could get in the future one psychosis. What would happen in children and adolescents? Especially in adolescents, I want to clarify something in that aspect. They are in one period where they are growing fast, where they are experiencing a lot of hormone change, and the brain is still growing. They are not that kind of flexibility that as an adult we have. They are not able to maybe adjust their emotion for that kind of stressful situation. They know that the hurricane will pass, they know that something serious will pass, but they are not able to maybe adjust their behavior in that situation. And sometimes how they react in front of that kind of phenomenon is like abnormal. They are suffering depression, they could experience drugs abuse, hypervigilance, suicidal thoughts, that is important, trouble to sleep, trouble concentration, and dissociative reaction. That was explaining about the amnesia. Irritability, angry, outbursts, and aggressive behavior. But what happens? Sometimes that aggressive behavior, irritability, you will not see that immediately. And sometimes people are focused only about the irritability, bad behavior, and maybe they are not thinking that that person was experiencing in the past one trauma that now 1 month after, 2 months after, 3 months after, they are showing symptoms in that regard. negative alteration in cognition and mood associated with the traumatic event. Related also with the post-traumatic stress disorder, you could experience symptoms for a long period of time. There are some research that they are talking about 10 years after experience symptoms related with post-traumatic stress disorder. Usually, there are one classification that they are talking about like a chronic post-traumatic stress disorder, because the person after 3 months, 6 months experience symptoms, they are still experiencing symptoms related with the problem. Emotional outbursts, overwhelm, that is both group. Adults and children could experience that. Feeling guilty, shame, chronic stress, and everything related with the past event that they are experiencing in their life. That is the group of comorbidity that we could find persons that they are experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder. Depression, suicidal behavior and suicide, substance abuse, panic attack, and complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Related with depression, sometimes the hurricane Beryl passed today. I no experience symptoms maybe 6 months after. And maybe I have all the symptoms that remain one post-traumatic stress disorder. But because of the depression is the main symptoms, nobody thinks that I am experiencing one post-traumatic stress disorder, and everybody is focused on depression, and they will prescribe medication for me for depression. I am suffering depression, I will give you medication for depression, but I am not focused about what happened before that. And that is something that we need to take in place. What happened before you start to experience depression? Suicidal behavior and suicidal attempt. That is one thought or behavior that usually affect the majority of persons involved in one scenario like that. Because if they lose all the property, they lose the house, they have not enough income to survive or sustain the family, sometimes that thought could come in, and there are persons that they have been committed suicide as a consequence of one stressful situation like a one hurricane or something. Substance abuse. There are one group of persons that they never touch the alcohol or drugs, but because they are living in one stressful situation, they use the alcohol or different kind of drugs to escape from that stressful situation that they have experienced. Panic attack or panic disorder. That is one frequent and or often disorder that we could find, especially in female. In front of any stress, they could experience panic attack. Panic attack or panic disorder. We are talking about panic attack when you have maybe one attack, but not constantly. And when the person experiences more than 3 panic attacks in one short period of time, we are talking about panic disorder. And complex post-traumatic stress disorder is what we just mentioned before, that is that group of persons that they have post-traumatic stress disorder for a long period of time. That's why it's complex, because it's difficult to maybe fix that person, or maybe to giving the support or the proper treatment at that group of persons. This is we are talking here about the first response. In Grenada or worldwide, we know that when we are facing one stressful situation, trauma also, the first response are there. Who are working as a first response? Police, doctor, pathology, forensic pathology, even some community worker that in front of that situation that would be there in front of the line of the situation. But according with the recent results of the information that we got, more than 80% of persons that they are working as a first response, they are experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder. But as I was explaining before, why if maybe one group of 20 persons, they are working as a first response, not all of them get post-traumatic stress disorder. You know why? Because depend on your nervous system, depend what risk factor you have, depend if you have family history or not, depend if you are like a strong nervous system, like we say that people who have like a balanced nervous system with proper flexibility and proper action, that person have a strong nervous system. That's why if you are working as a first response, but you are in risk, you will develop one post-traumatic stress disorder or any other type of stressful situation. If you have a strong nervous system, maybe Also, you are working as a first response, you will not get one post-traumatic stress disorder. How we will assess and diagnose this person that they have experienced one post-traumatic stress disorder? The first thing, the person must ask for help. Who will provide that help? The doctor in the district, doctor in the hospital, or anywhere that you decide to ask for help. The doctor must do the proper evaluation, proper interview, and mental status examination. That is the most important thing. The mental status examination will help you to rule out if you have one post-traumatic stress disorder or if you have something else. During that evaluation, we must use some standardized screen tools that will help us to confirm your diagnosis or rule out what other things have been affecting you. You will use the criteria for a DSM-5 review and ICD-11. That's what we are using now. And we will receive information also from parents, school, and clinicians. Related with the teenager, always we need to request information how the teenagers are performing in school. Because sometimes we go to see the doctor, psychologist, and we are talking about only what happened at home. We need to receive the feedback in the school and how they are performing in school also and how they are associated into the community, because that information will help us also to define exactly what is going on with the teenager. Importance of the early intervention. The early psychological intervention is really important because that will help you to mitigate what else could come into you after. That's why we must ask for help at any time that you experience symptoms that you know that before you have not that kind of symptoms. Always we must ask for help because the early intervention is crucial when we are involved in one trauma answer. Treatment approach. The first treatment that somebody with one post-traumatic stress disorder or somebody or that experience or exposes to one trauma, the first thing or the first stage of treatment is psychological support. Counseling and psychological support. Then we must be evaluated by the psychiatrist, because when you are looking for help and the psychology provides you help for 1 month evaluation, 2 month evaluation, after that I believe that the person needs something else. You can receive, for example, assessment by the psychology or assessment by the counselor because of post-traumatic stress disorder for 1 year or 2 years. Something must be done before that, because if you are receiving counseling and you don't improve after 6 months, you need to ask for help for one psychiatric evaluation that maybe that person will provide you something else. What we used to provide, maybe therapy, could be individual therapy or maybe group therapy. And we will use medication. Is this necessary, especially in the severe case? What medication we could use, for example, serotonin or epinephrine reduction inhibitor, or maybe serotonin reduction inhibitor. We are talking about sertraline, venlafaxine, or maybe paroxetine, escitalopram. That is the group of medication that we could use when somebody experiences post-traumatic stress disorder. We could use also anticonvulsant medication or mood stabilizer. We are talking about Tegretol or carbamazepine, or we are talking about gabapentin, or different kind of anticonvulsant medication that will help us with that. Family therapy and self-care. Why we are talking about self-care? Because sometimes we are focused only in the doctor, psychology, and counseling, but what you are doing by yourself? You must take care of yourself properly with the exercise, proper hygiene, take time for relaxation, and try to interact with people, other people that could bring into you positive things, and that will help you to move forward. There are patients that they only want to get medication and nothing else. You must change your lifestyle. You must be associated with persons that will support you to move forward in any kind of scenario where you are working or in contact. The roles of school and communication. The school and community leader or anyone that are around people after one trauma, they must be responsible to identify early sign and symptom relation with post-traumatic stress disorder or any other kind of mental condition. Try to prepare place for proper expression or safe expression. For example, in the school, there are teenagers that they like to go to speak with counselor or any other teacher where they are more identified with them. But sometimes We are receiving complaints that say, no, the school have not the proper place where I could express myself because the room is not proper, or because maybe close to that door is the door of a principal. I don't want to go to speak in that place. That's why we must prepare into the community or a school or anywhere, one area where the person could go to express themselves free without any problem. Psychoeducation. I say that the psychoeducation must be done before the trauma and after trauma also. Always we must prepare person for any kind of situation like a hurricane or so. And crisis intervention team. The crisis intervention team must be done after the one stressful situation. Prevention and preparedness for the disaster. The same thing, we must prepare the school, we must training caregiver, psychology in the first aid, we must training community in the resilience, and we must early access to the mental health service. Grenada have mental health service in all community. Anywhere you could find somebody that could provide help through the community team, doctors, house officers. That's why the access to mental health here in Grenada is not a problem. Maybe in other countries could be the problem, but here that is not a problem. The key to take away. Post-traumatic stress disorder is treatable with early recognition. Family and community support are crucial. A school, caregiver, and health service play the key in that role. Thank you so much. That is my presentation. Any question? No question, no doubt.
Doctor, not really a question, but can I request that in schools, can we integrate mental health as being part of the curriculum?
Yes, we are trying to do that because we are thinking about mental health, school mental health base or something like that as part of the curriculum, with one program that we want to put in place that could be, because that is not nothing new, that is not nothing that we create. That is something that worldwide exists. Mental health based in school, where maybe every month, depending on how is the school curriculum, Team for Mental Health could go and work with students with one specific program or with anything to try to move forward and prepare the students related with mental health and identify early identification of signs and symptoms. Because what I am seeing here, for example, there are students with problems that even the parents and teachers, they are not able to identify. And even when they identify that, because of the stigma, they don't want to ask for help. But we could do that.
And in terms for the school for the special education children, if we are considering putting it into the curriculum, can we go about instituting measures like introducing mental health into plays for especially those at the special education school?
I don't know, but how I am accustomed to work, all the students that are supposed to join with special ed must be evaluated for child psychiatry team. And then they will enter to the special ed. I don't know how that could implement it, because that must be done. Because when you receive the student with one proper mental evaluation, you know how you will treat them after. Because all of them maybe have mental challenge for different reasons, but not all of them you could, knowing all of them you could use the same kind of treatment also. That's why if you had a previous evaluation, after that, maybe you know how you could move forward or how you were treating them. That could be.
No, based on your level of experience working here in Grenada, have you, are we seeing an increase in mental health disorders? And what do you think might be the cause of that? And what do you think we can do to help?
Okay,
as a community.
Yes, as a community. I say that we are seeing increases in the number of patients with mental health, because also the stigma is there. I believe that what we are doing in one sense, there are people that they are receiving the information and they are asking for help. And that's why the amount of person that we are seeing now is higher in comparison how I saw in 2019, because I started work here in 2019. And I remember that I started to computerize all the children and teenagers that was attending the clinic with suicidal behavior. And when I make a comparison of what I got in 19 and what I have now, the number of patients with suicidal behavior is higher. You understand? But if you compare also the amount of person that was asking for help in 2019 is less than what we are getting now. That means that the access of the service is there, and anytime that we encourage people and provide them more information, they will looking for help more easy for them. And how we could work in the community, always I say that we must work with the risk. We can't wait for the person in the hospital. We need to go to the base to try to identify who is at risk because of the family issue, because of the society, because of any factor. And we must work with that group. And we will prevent them to get one serious mental ill or maybe something else. That's why the community work is the base. We must maybe design something or put in place something into the community that will facilitate us to identify who is at risk and then work with that group. Okay. That's it. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Francia.
Oh, Lord.
According to the program, we've passed lunch already. So what we have next is a little jingle. We have some closing remarks by the Honorable Minister, and then vote of thanks. So what we're going to do, we're going to go straight and call it off at the end. You don't think so? Yeah. Fine. Right, so, yeah, so, just before. All right, so at this point, we have some tokens to give out, but we'll do it just after this performance. A few tokens to give out, and we have 2 more questions to ask, so at least we can get it. We have a jingle and a sing-along, so participants, you can sing along. Of course, Division of Culture. So put your hands together for leftists and his team again, and they come to do that jingle. And then we do the tokens, and then we have the remarks from the minister, and then the closing, the vote of thanks, and we finish. And after that, fellowship is swallowship.
All right.
And of course, we're going to make a dry run first, and then we're going to get you involved. It's easy, it's about 4 lines.
All right, we were supposed to build this jingle with the team here, but because of time constraint, we had to do it differently. So I came up with a little something. Mental health is important too, so let's do what we have to do to always stay grounded. Stay grounded. All right, I'll get that? Let's try that. Mental health is important too, so let's do what we always do to always stay grounded. We need to get rid of the stigma. Seeking help is the best answer not to recover. So don't care what people do. It don't matter what people say. Safeguarding your mental health is up to you. Your mental health is your greatest wealth. So let's try it again, right? Let's try it again, right? I have a word around word here. I just raised that in. All right. Come phone. Mental health is important too, so let's do what we have to do to always stay grounded. We need to get rid of the stigma. Seeking help is the best answer in quest to recover. So no matter what people say, it doesn't matter just what they do. Safeguarding your mental health is up to you. Your mental health is your greatest wealth. Thank you.
So we're going to studio next week? Studio next week, yeah. Studio next week.
All right.
And the division of mental health going to pay for that. Yeah. Put your hands together for leftists, man. Really good, really nice. So at this point, we have some tokens to give out. So we ask the people from the mental health department, Grenada, to come first. And there is some tokens that they ought to give before, and then there's some other tokens. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the first token is for Nurse Annette Emmons. I know it's a surprise. I'm going to read it. Give me. So it's Annette Emmons. Heartfelt thank you and gratitude for all your contributions and dedication to caring for all those you provide care for in the nursing service. We appreciate you.
Ministry. Nurse Emmons, on behalf of the Ministry of Mental Health, Wellness and Religious Affairs, we would like to give you this token of appreciation for your hard work and delegation. We admire you. You're a hard worker, and whatever you do it with integrity, and you do it with love. So on behalf of the ministry, we would love to give you this award for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The other award go to Nicole Eban. Nurse Nicole Eban, heartfelt thank you and gratitude for your contributions and dedication in caring for all those you provide care for in the nursing service. Nurse Eban, we appreciate you.
Nurse Eban, on behalf of the Ministry of Health and Wellness, we'd just like to give you this token. It's very small, but significant for your very valuable contribution to mental health. You are dedicated, and you are indeed a very special nurse, because mental health, delivery of mental health to patients, care is a very difficult thing, and you must be dedicated to do such a thing. So once again, thank you, and we really appreciate you, and continue to make your really, really special contribution to mental health. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much. And give these two people a big round of applause. I'm a principal, and dealing with children, it is difficult. Very difficult, I can tell you at times. But dealing with mentally disturbed patients, you guys are blessed. So I'm not sure I can deal with that. I think we have some other tokens to give out, or you want to come and...
Good morning, everyone. I want to make two presentations to Minister Andrew and Pierce. So I'm giving them 2 cups. And the cups is really in observing World Mental Health Month, and it says access to services, mental health in catastrophe and emergencies. So Minister, can you come please?
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Hello, everybody. My name is Nakita Wells, and I am the Public Relations Officer in the Ministry of Mental Health, Wellness, and Religious Affairs. So I have some, you saw the lovely cups, right? And I know you want one too. So I have some questions here. I trust that we will listen in attentively to our presentations. So I have some questions here, and if you lift your hands and you can answer correctly, you'll be a lucky. You're not hearing me? See, a real tall and thing, so. Better? Good. All right, so the first question. 378 natural disasters happened where? In Europe. Very good. See, she was listening very attentively. Right. Next question. In 1923, how many kids were displaced in the world? Not you again. Huh? 33? No, not 33. Huh? I'm hearing the answer somewhere, but you, okay. I'm hearing, but I'm not seeing. 47 million. Very good. Okay, so we can leave back on. Leave the person. Right. Next question. We'll leave back one. Next question. Give me one. There were a list of roles and responsibilities of the schools and the communities. Can I have one role or responsibility of the school and the community as it relates to disaster preparedness? Dr. Francia, give us a list of the roles and responsibilities and identify. What are we identifying? Early detection. I'll take that. Right, so he wins a cup. No, he gets a cup. All right, and we have. Okay, no problem. So 2 more. So give him one, and we have one more question. One more question, the young fella in the back. So we have one more question. Very simple. Give me a name, one name, of the 2 nurses who are recognized here today. Oh, okay. So for fairness, a lot of people said they did not hear. So we're going to put back down the hands. Put back down the hands. Right? Put back down, put back down the hands. But I say put back down the hands. Right. So keep your hands down, and I'm going to repeat the questions. To be fair, everyone said that they did not hear. So, raise your hand after I ask the question, After. If you raise it before, you're disqualified. Right now, we're in school. So, we had 2 nurses recognized here today. Can I have the name of one of them? Miss the ready yet? You were laughing. Go ahead. But you see, she's still laughing. Oh, you're surprised. You know what I call you? All right. 1 cup to the lovely lady in black. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for listening so attentively. I now hand you back over to Sister. Huh? So we have one more presentation.
Okay, where is it? Okay. So we have one more presentation.
The final cup goes to our remarkable nursing director from Grenada, Sister Martin Charles. We'd just like to give you a token. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for being here. Thank you for always standing at our side. You're very special. Okay, so that's our remarkable Director of Nursing Services for Grenada.
Thank you very much. So we come to the end of the tokens. We have some closing remarks. And we call the Honorable Delma Thomas to make some closing remarks. And following that, we have the vote of thanks. So put your hands together for Honorable Thomas.
Thank you. It is always a pleasure to be in Carriacou. The truth is, I love Carriacou so very much. I wish it could be my second home. It is truly, I'm hearing talking. This year's global theme, Access to Services, Mental Health in Catastrophes and Emergencies, reminds us of a very real truth, that mental health support is not a luxury, but a necessity, especially in times of crisis, whether it's natural disaster, a family tragedy, or a community emergency. People need to know that help is available, accessible, and compassionate. You know, and I'm happy that we choose to come to Carriacou to celebrate, to observe World Mental Health Day, because every one of us know that just last year we had this emergency, or what we call a catastrophe, where we had the advent of Hurricane Beryl, and we know the impact it had on the, or still having on the whole island. We still have families who are traumatized by the effects of Hurricane Beryl. As a ministry, we are committed to strengthening our systems so that every Grenadian, Carriacouian, and every citizen of Petit Martinique can receive mental health care when and where they need it. And I want to applaud Dr. Neil Shaitan, who have been part of our ministry team coming into Carriacou very regularly to provide the support. But we know that we have to continue the support. Support for mental health is not a one-off. And so as a ministry, we'll continue to be coming to Carriacou very regularly, into the schools, into the community, and providing the support, as we also will be doing in Grenada. Our goal is to take services beyond the hospital walls and into the heart of the communities, to schools, as I said, and workshops, and having more engagement like what we're having here, but even at the homes. Because the issue of mental challenges are in our homes. Some of us have family members who are mentally challenged, and we do not know how to deal with it. And so a lot of times we bring them to Monge and we ask whether or not they can stay there forever, because we're looking at the ways and means to get rid of the trouble. But you see, people with mental health challenges are people just like us. And the truth is, every one of us from time to time, based on what you heard here today, we will, in some point in our life, once we have flesh, once we have life, we'll encounter some means of challenge. But in terms of real disorder that need treatment, we need our family support. We need our community support. We need to end the stigma. We need to end the discrimination. And we can only do that when we have sensitization, when we provide the education, and when as a government, an NGO, and the churches, we combine our efforts and come together to provide support to families. And so as a ministry and as a government, we are committed to continue providing all the necessary support in that regard. Our presence here today is part of that effort. My team and I believe that visibility matters, that showing up, listening, connecting directly with people is a vital step towards healing and trust. Mental health is everyone's business. Each of us has a role to play. And you know, I always like to make myself vulnerable and say to you, you will look at me and you say, well, that's the Minister of Youth and Sports, that's the Minister of Mental Health. But I too, my mom, suffer from mental challenges and do have to go to Mongate sometimes. The good news is, with the care and support that we're seeing now, over 2 years, she has not been to Mongate. And many other people have that same effect. So today, as we observe this year's theme, let us recommit ourselves to build a nation where mental wellness is protected, stigma is erased, and support is within reach for all. You know, the issue of stigma, we must work on that. You see, sometimes we see suicide and sometimes we say, well, talk to someone. But sometimes we do not have the guts to speak to others because we are afraid that when we speak to them, it will be in the public domain. And so from our ministry standpoint, we want to say to you that we do have confidential people you can speak to. Sweetwater Foundation has been working along with government over the last couple of years in terms of providing services. And there's a hotline that you can call, 400. So you have a 400 hotline. You don't even have to say who you are, but all you could identify that you have some concerns, that you feel in a particular way and you need help. So I urge you, 400. You call the Sweetwater Foundation and you can get assistance. There are other counselors who are confidential, and we are working to provide more services. We are looking at other ways and other means as a government that we will announce very soon how we can provide more support. Because we are saying in 2026, we want zero suicide. We do not want any suicide. And so we will be providing all the necessary support to see how we can prevent it. We know that sometimes it's difficult when you have challenges and you don't know how to deal with it. But we're also looking at how we decriminalize suicide. Because if we're saying that suicide is a mental health challenge, then we can put you in prison if you attempted something because you're sick. Just like if you diagnose with cancer or you're diagnosed with high blood pressure or diabetes, and then you feel ill, then you take you and you put you in prison. So we want to be able to say no to that. But we want to be at a point where no person will be willing to harm themselves because the support is available. So we'll continue, Carriacou will continue to be working along with you. We'll continue to send our team, and as I told my permanent secretary and team, maybe monthly. And it's more than just Carriacou. Yes, we know that Carriacou had burial and we still have the trauma, but in terms of providing mental health support, it will be in every parish. And we do have teams already, and you heard presentation made to Nurse Emmons and Nurse Aban, who are the persons placed in Carriacou. But in Grenada also, we do have nurses in every community going around providing the necessary support. And so as a government, we provide the support to them also. Because the truth is, sometimes you think about everybody else, not realizing those who work in the field need love, need care, because they too sometimes are stigmatized. Just by the virtue of working in mental health, people call them names. And so we are providing them with all the necessary support. So Carriacou, thank you for being here. I know we do have a match later on. I was really happy to hear Dr. Francia, and Dr. Francia is a child specialist when it comes to mental health issues. We have Dr. Hazel Dabrio, who's also a specialist. So we do have a number of specialists in Grenada who can provide you with the necessary support. So even after here, if as one of the children you have a concern and you want to talk to them, pull them aside for a minute, you can do that. And know that whatever you say will be confidential, but know that we are here for you and will continue to provide the necessary support as a government and as a ministry. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Thomas. And ladies and gentlemen, we're boiling down to the end, but feel free that if you have any issue you want to discuss, you can pull them one side and have a word with them, because just in case you're afraid to tell somebody and you might see it on Facebook tomorrow, you can speak to these people who are very confidential. We have now the vote of thanks, and that will be done by Nurse Annette Emmons, the mental health nurse here in Carriacou.
So good afternoon, everyone. And special recognition to our guest speakers. Dr. Hazel Dabrio, please stand. Stand. So the crowd puts, oh, they saw you already, right? Okay, come forward, please. Dr. Dabrio, on behalf of the Carriacou Mental Health Association, we would like to present you now this token of appreciation, compliment Osprey Lines.
Thank you. You guys call me, make use of me, I'm there. I want to be helpful to you.
Dr. Francia. So Dr. Francia, on behalf of the Carriacou Mental Health Association, we would like to present this token to you, compliment Australia.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Emma, to preparing that forum. That to me was well done. Carriacou have good nurse here.
That's a shot. Okay, so pleasant afternoon again. I know it's lunchtime. Now, on behalf of the Carriacou Mental Health Support Group, I am honored to deliver you the vote of thanks as we close today's meaningful and inspiring forum. First and foremost, heartfelt thanks to Minister Tevin Andrew and the Minister of Carriacou and Petit-Martinique Affairs for your unwavering support. Mr. Andrew has been there thick and thin. To the Permanent Secretary, Mr. Perrott, we sincerely appreciate your presence and your thoughtful opening remarks, which help set the tone for today's discussion. To the Ministry of Mental Health and Wellness and our dedicated support team from the mainland, thank you for your partnership, your vision, your commitment to strengthen mental health services across our island. Your collaboration continues to be the cornerstone of progress in this vital area. We are especially grateful to our guest speakers, Dr. Hazel Dabrio, and Dr. Francia, for sharing your deep expertise and compassion. Your insight have empowered us with tools and knowledge to better support individuals and communities facing trauma and adversity. To the Culture Department, thank you for the impactful skit and creative session that brought both depth and connection to our conversation. And also to our Master of Ceremony, thank you for guiding us smoothly and keeping the energy alive throughout the day. Not forgetting Minister Delma Thomas, thank you for your closing remarks. Thank you for your support in mental health. And let us continue to champion the cause for mental health. We also recognize and thank our frontline workers, educators, students, youth leaders, business representatives, and all our participants. Your presence today demonstrates your commitment in healing, learning, and growing together as a strong community. To our generous sponsors and supporters, thank you for providing the venue, equipment, tokens, refreshments, and so much more. Your contribution made this event not only possible, but successful. As we close, let us carry forward what we have learned today. Let us check in on one another, uplift those in need, and continue to build systems of care and compassion in our communities before, during, and after times of crisis. Once again, thank you all. Be safe as we proceed, not proceed yet, but as we have our lunch and then proceed on our march. And may the momentum from today inspire continued action and support for mental wellness throughout our islands. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nurse Emmons. And the number to call, it is 800-4444. So it's 800 and 44s. That's the number, so you can take that, the number for help from Dr. Dabrio and the Sweetwater Foundation. So take that number, it's 800-4444. Thank you very much. We'll break for lunch and then we have a march up the street, so just to show awareness for mental health. So
Good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Noel, we saved the best for last. On behalf of the Mental Health Support Group, we would like to present a token of appreciation to you, to thank you for skillfully guiding today's proceeding.
thank you very much. It's not very regular that I do things like this and I get tokens. So thank you guys very much. So we'll break for lunch now and then we'll get back together. So thank you.